my goodness. All right, hey y'all, welcome to Hardcore Enduro, where it's all about getting out and riding the hard stuff. I'm George, the guy behind the bars and the voice behind the mic. And this is like the 5th attempt to try to get this video in right now. Everyone's coming in outside, and I just recorded, didn't have my mic on for the last 20 minutes, so we're doing it all again. Anyways, this is Trixie here. She's the bike's been getting it done for me, riding all the hard stuff, getting me out of all the bad situations and taking care of me, getting me back home to my wife and kids. She's a 2016 wr450, and we're just going to go over what I've done and how I set her up for the style of riding I do. And I prefer hard enduro style of riding. I do a lot of desert racing as well, and just trail riding in general. So we're going to start here. We'll work from the top to the bottom. So we're going to start on the handlebars. So the bars I use and I really like right now is the Pro Taper high YZ bend. And the reason why I like these high YZ bends is that they just allow me a little bit to when I stand on the bike, it's just allowed my upper body to be a little bit more upright. I'm not having to bend over so much during the riding. And a lot of desert riding especially, you're just getting a lot of whoops, and those whoops can just really tire your back out as well as your legs. So just being able to stand up a little bit more upright, it really helps out. Now the YZ bend, what it is, it has a little taller bend right here, and then I did a woodland bend before, and the woodland bend would come up and then go straight, whereas these will come up and they angle up a little bit. You can really tell, I guess, from the front here. Oh, it's taking forever to get around. All right, so right here, you can tell, see that bar goes up and then they just kind of taper up a little bit more. So they go up and they just rise a little bit more, whereas the woodland bend came up and then it went flat. So it just gives me just a little bit extra rise out of that. Addition to the high bend bars, come on phone, there we go, is risers. So I put in 1/2-inch bar risers as well. And I really like that. It makes it a lot more comfortable, a lot less strain on my lower back. And there's things to think about, you know. During a race, if you compare it to, you can't compare yourself to a pro rider. And even that, you can't compare yourself to an in-shape rider. I'm a once a month kind of rider, and you know, a lot of times I'm just out of shape most of the time. And because you're out of shape and an amateur, I'm carrying a lot of extra gear on my back, a lot of extra weight. I know I'm going to run through a lot of water, so I have extra water. I have a couple parts. I mean, not too much, but just some extra gear, extra padding, stuff like that, than a pro rider or a good rider would have. As far as the racing goes, I'm carrying more gear. And then when I solo ride on trail rides, I'm carrying a lot more extra stuff in case something happens and I get in a bad spot, I can get myself out. And I do a lot of solo riding, so I'm carrying a lot of gear, a lot of weight on my back. So as far as carrying, you know, in my position on the bike, just being able to be a little bit more upright really relieves that stress in my back. Not only that, you know, if you're going for a race, the pro guys, they're done in their race. A lot of the races, 2 hours. Whereas the amateur guys like me, we're out there for 4 or 5 hours, you know, the maximum time. And so that many hours, your back and your body just gets so fatigued. So that little bit of relief right there from the high handlebars, it works great for me. As you become a better rider, or as you become more in shape for riding, you could probably go with the lower bend bar, as it allows you to get more movement on the bike itself. All right, going to the center of the handlebars here is what I really like for all my trail riding I do. I just got a handlebar bag. This is an Alpha mountain bike. Normally this would sit on a mountain bike here. That would go on the neck and then the tube frame beneath. But I've made my own little frame with a little pad and a clamp there that this bag sits on, and it's plastic here so it flexes, which I really like. Because if you ever come in, slam on, you know, for safety wise, if you come in and your body slams on this, it does give. It's not rigid. And then of course it bends back. But the reason why I like this bag, as far as navigation, I keep my iPhone right there and it protects it. This has this little flap up there, and this bike, as you can tell, she's beat up. Look at all the scratches everywhere. She is tumbled, she has fallen, she's backflip, front flip, whatever. She's landed totally upside down on the handlebars, and my phone has never broken once. No scratches, no cracks, nothing. So this case has worked. Now I've positioned it. You can position it different ways. When I have the mount, I just have it, I think, the right level. It's almost in line with the handlebars, so if it does go upside down, the handlebars will help take some of that impact, which is working out pretty good. But it's so convenient to have your phone right there as far as navigation, incoming calls, and then the bag itself. You know, I carry my extra GoPro batteries right there. I have my little kickstand plate there in case it's muddy, a wipe rag, and then I'll put snacks and stuff like that in there as well. And then it doesn't flop around, so it's pretty strong. So even through the whoops at 50 miles an hour, this bag is solid. It's not flopping all over the place. I see a lot of people riding with their iPhones up on here with the like just a clamp mount that you'd get on a street bike or a mountain bike, and that works good as long as I think you don't you know, send your loop out your bike or something. When I'm riding pretty hard stuff, I take some risks. I like riding the hard stuff, so I don't feel comfortable at all having a phone out there exposed to getting broken, because I need that sucker. Thing I did here was put on a hydraulic clutch. I use the Magura hydraulic clutch here, and works pretty good. I routed that all the way down to the engine here, through where it connects right there for your clutch, and works pretty good. I had it zip tied here, but as you can see, it's still getting a little nicked right there. So I need to bring in this a little bit more inside the engine for protection, so it's not getting out here and getting pinched when I do a crazy thing and lay the bike over. So I got to get that up and out of the way, which that'd be a simple fix. And the reason why I went hydraulic clutch, though, like a lot of you, I've heard that they're just better, lighter on the clutch pull, which, to be honest, when I first got it, I was not impressed by the clutch pull as far as being lighter than the cable pull. Now it is more consistent, and the reason why you'd get clutch over a cable, in my opinion, cable, you have to keep lubing throughout the year. That cable can get dust and a little grit and sand in there, and it gets harder to pull over time as you ride. Whereas the clutch with the hydraulics all enclosed system, it's just a much more consistent pull, and you're not having to service it all year long. So I do like that for the clutch. Now, if you look here on my levers, another thing I do for a setup is I cut the ends off. So your normal lever comes out about that much more, and I've cut the ends off to about right here, and then I sand them down so they're not sharp or anything. But the reason for that is when I go to lay the bike down, it falls down, it's hitting the handlebar here, which is much stronger. This handlebar is much stronger than the clutch lever. I know a lot of clutch levers are meant to bend forward, but that's it. You know, if it bends sideways or whatever, you're breaking off your clutch lever, and then it's going to be a struggle bus to get it home. And I do the same thing for the brake lever. So you can tell here, brake lever, I've cut that as well. You can see how much I've cut. I've cut a lot, so it's not just a little bit, because I'm only using 2 fingers to 1 finger. Same thing here, 2 fingers to 1 finger. I could actually cut a little bit more off that tab. Now my clutch pull is very soft, and what I've done here There's so much to talk about. What I've done with my clutch now is in the clutch basket down there, I've taken out 2 of the springs on the clutch basket, which has really softened that up. You know, I haven't got anything fancy. I know there's One Light clutch. There's a jet passing overhead. All right, there's One Light clutch. There's a couple other brands that really add to mechanical advantage for your clutch pull. But just taking out those 2 springs on the clutch packs have really made this nice and comfortable and soft. And I'm telling you, this is a 450. She's got a lot of torque, and I've never had a clutch slipping problem. I do a lot of clutch work, hill climbing slow, lugging, tractoring up the hill, and then I've done hill climbing, and my clutch has never slipped. I use Henson plates, and they've worked pretty good. The other thing on the handlebars here is I used to run full wrap handguards here, and I've done away with them. I prefer, this is just the, I think the Cherubee here, handguard, the X-Force, I think that's what the model is. And it's just a little plastic handguard. It's really flexible, which I really like. So when you go and you crash, you lay your bike down, this flexes, and it does not break off. I imagine there's a certain point it would break off, but it's not breaking off. It just flexes, then goes back to position. You know, it goes up, goes back to position, which I like a lot. It does still protect from any roosts, you know, rocks and debris flying up, but I wear really heavy gloves, and so I rely on my heavy gloves with I got carbon fiber plating in the knuckles and stuff like that to protect my hands over the handguard. The reason why I got away from the full wraps is because they start out stock. They got a nice good form to them. They're out here, and then you crash one time and they bend in. And when they bend in, they bend in and they can hit your clutch lever or your brake lever on the other side, or they break right here, right where they attach. It's a real weak point, and when they bend, they start to crack. There's a hairline crack that starts forming. And then the other thing, the angle, this is what happened to me. It was bent in, and when I crashed, my finger got stuck in that little wedge of where it was like that. My finger got stuck in there, and it broke this knuckle. So this knuckle broke, and now I lost a lot of range. I can't straighten it, and I can't bend it all the way. That is my clutch finger. All from the wraparound handguard. So I prefer these open guards here. My hand can get out of there easy without getting hurt. I know a lot of people still ride with these. The pros all have these little open handguards, and I think they're just as good as the full wraps, because the other thing to replace the full wraps is more expensive than buying new handlebars. The handlebars, I think that was on 80 bucks. On Amazon for this bar, so it's to me cheaper and easier to replace the handlebar here than it is to get the new Barkbuster wraps. And I was running Pro Circa, the Pro Bend guards, the Pro Bend Circa guards, anyways. And I don't like them. Here, I'll bring them up so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so here's the full wrap handguards that I used to run. These are the Circa with the Pro Bend, and they've really taken a beating. You can see how much I've dropped the bike and how they've taken a beating. But what happens is, right here, right where they connect on the handlebars, you can see that bend. So that gets hit, and that bends right there. And as it bends, it breaks. And see that break right there? It's so thin. I think they could easily solve this if they just put a little bit more meat on that, made that a little thicker, but you can just see how thin that is of aluminum. It's not strong enough. And so it starts out good, and then you drop your bike a couple times, that breaks, that's bent in. And this is where my finger, that bent in, my finger got caught between the grip and that bar right there, and I broke my knuckle. And you can see here's the brake side. Same thing. You just see how much that bends in. You see it cracked right there. To me, they could reinforce that. They could just add, you know, a lot more thickness to that bar. It'd really strengthen it up and make a better full wrap. But it isn't, and these suckers are expensive. So, you know, you're looking to replace these at 80 bucks. A full new set's like 160 bucks. And to me, the handlebar at $80 is easier and cheaper to replace. Plus, it's more stronger, and as I'm riding, I don't have to worry. Now, the Donner this year, this is the grip. I was running these on the Donner Hard Enduro, and you can see just how much it bent. Especially hard enduros, you're gonna drop your bike. And I dropped it, and it bent that much. And what it was doing, it was pinching right here on the throttle. And because it's pinching the throttle grip, my throttle wasn't returning as it usually does. It was getting stuck, whatever position it was at. So the whole time riding, I had to force the throttle grip to go where it needed to go. So no more of these. We're doing away with all that junk. And we're just keeping it right here with these little flexible open hand grips. And I've ridden several rides, and I really like these. They bend, and it's a little bit of a mental thing. I was thinking they weren't gonna last. They were just gonna snap off my first crash, but they have not. All they do is bend, and then they go back to place. They've worked really well. One thing I forgot to mention on the handlebar is I keep a little toe strap right here. Just strap it on the bar, and that you never know when you're gonna need to tow somebody else. I have towed other people, or we are going up a really steep hill climb over in Laughlin, and we use the tow buddy to help pull the bike up as well as ride it up. So just having that on, it weighs almost nothing, and I like it having that out here, easy to get to, and I've used it several times, so I do like it. That's enough of the handlebars. You get all the top stuff. Now the light that comes on the bike, I replaced that. It was a dim little light. I put this little LED bulb in there, and she is super bright, really good. There's a lot of times out in the desert, even trail ride, I've come home late at night, and having that extra bright light has been really nice. So I do like that. So I recommend upgrading your bulb if you got a dim light from the factory. All right, right here I've added these little cargo tie down little hooks. Really cheap, easy to put on, and you can put them anywhere. Right there works really good, but you can also add them on different parts of your bike if you want to tie your bike down in other areas. But work really good. I do like those quite a bit. My seat here, I've rewrapped it. This is the second cover that I've used. Just extra grip here so you're not sliding on the seat. It's easy to do yourself if you just get a stapler and you staple the underside there. It's really easy to change your own seat cover. I have a tugger strap in the rear. I don't like this model. It's made for Yamaha here, just the way they have their fenders mounted, but what happens is this little piece here, I'll come around this side here, this little piece here sticks out. And when I'm sliding back, if I'm doing a pivot turn or just getting my bike really vertical, that little piece will catch on my jersey, my pants, and my inner leg, and it starts to rip my pants after a while. So I'd like to get rid of it and have maybe the strap come right through this gap or something like that. I need to change this because I don't like this setup. That's one thing I need to change. I do have a front tugger here. A lot of people will put them around their can't even speak, put around their forks right here. I just put it right where the front fender bolts in. I put it right there. And it's nice to have this front one here as well. You never know when you got to drag your bike and what kind of angle your bike is, upside down, sideways, vertical, you know, invert, whatever it is. You can pull this here, as far as you're pulling on the handle guards, as far as pulling this rear or pulling the rear fender, just more options to getting your bike out of a bad situation. So I recommend getting the straps on there if you don't got them. Now, another big change I did to the bike was I upgraded the radiators. So these radiators here, they're bigger, they're much deeper. If you look at the factory ones, they come almost a almost a ½ inch thinner, whereas these are much thicker here. And that allows about they say 33% more water capacity. And I believe it worked because I've never had the bike overheat. It does come factory with the electric fan, but I've never had this bike overheat on me. I've been out in 100, 110 degrees, stopped in a canyon, you know, the super hot conditions, no wind, and the fan is running. I mean, she's getting hot, but she's not overheating. So I think it's due to the oversized radiators that I have. I use Flow radiator guards. They're very heavy duty. This is very heavy duty. It's one of the most heavy duty. I think Bulletproof Designs make some heavy duty ones too, but these Flow, they are expensive. I think they were like 20 or 50 bucks, maybe $300. But I wanted solid protection because I do a lot of hard stuff, and the bike drops a lot. So I want to protect my radiator as much as I can. The other thing of protection, this radiator hose, your main hose coming from the right side here, it just didn't have anything guarding it. So what I've done is I just cut this hose, a larger hose, and just zip tied it around just for added protection. I have had this cut, and that's why I've added this. When I did not have this, I hit a manzanita, which manzanita trees are just super strong, the bark is, and it cut this line. I did have some radiator tape that I carry with me that I wrapped. I was able to get back home. So I've added this extra protection for that radiator hose, which has worked. For your skid plate, I've added this aftermarket skid plate here. You know, there's a ton of brands that make all kinds of different skid plates and different designs, and people even make their own custom ones. You know, I've used aluminum here. You can get, you know, plastic ones, which maybe that'd be better. My one drawback to this skid plate is that it doesn't go enough. You can see here my water pump cover here. It's been getting hit. So this little plate needs to come up just a little bit more and cover this, because I am developing a small leak. You see that it's wet there. So there is a small little leak that has developed, and that's just from slamming that down on a rock. So if this plate came up a little bit more, which I could weld on a little extension here, maybe I should just do that, weld on my own little extension to cover that up. That'd be really helpful. And it's kind of the same on the other side. I'll show you on the other side how the skid plate looks. The other side here, see, it just comes down low. You can see I'm still getting crunched pretty good here, and then the starter itself is getting scraped quite a bit. It doesn't come up. Now, this is pretty strong, so maybe I don't need to worry about it, but you never know how hard your bike's gonna hit, or when that hit is the last hit that it's gonna take. So I'd like to see it come up just a little bit more for protecting. Now, my oil fill plug here, I've replaced it with this aluminum fancy blue anodized one because the factory is just this plastic, and it just has the one tab. You know, you can get it with your fingers. And I was racing a hare and hound, and I crashed. And when I crashed, my boot came up, and it kicked that cap, and that cap just popped out of there. So, and then I had to ride back with just an open fill cap. You know, there's no the plug wasn't there at all. So I put this aluminum one in there so that it's much stronger. My boot can't come up. If I crash, my boot can't come up and knock out that plug. So that's pretty good. I do recommend doing that. You never know how you're going to crash. Crashes are crazy. Anything can happen. So I replaced that, and I don't have to worry about my plug getting kicked off anymore. Goodness, this video's taking forever. Everyone keeps driving outside the shop, and I got to stop recording. All right, back to the shift lever here. Now, I've had a ton of trouble with my shift levers, and you can just see how floppy that is? And when you go to shift, this thing's up, down, flopping around, it's loose. I hate these shift levers. This is an aftermarket one. They're just made so damn cheap. I don't know why. Maybe I just need to bite the bullet and buy something expensive. Maybe it lasts better, but This is garbage, and it always creates a problem with me when I go to shift the bike, you know, shift gears. It's rubbing right there pretty good. You can see where, when that gets bent in or whatever, it starts rubbing right there. That's not good. I just noticed that right now. But that's got a good little nick in it. I gotta do something about the shift lever. And my foot pegs, these are still the factory pegs. You can see this one's getting bent down quite a bit here. I hit a rock right here once, and it just stopped me and went over the handlebars, got bent down. I've been wanting to try out the Raptor titanium pegs, which you can move back and down a little bit. All the pros, Jarvis, Webb, Billy Bolt, they all use them. So they have these foot pegs that are back and down. So I'd like to try that out. I don't have that set up. Those are expensive though, another $300 buy. It's like everything on the bike is $300 buy. $300 here, $300 there, you know, that's how it goes. For a chain and sprocket setup, factory comes with the O-ring chain. I do like the O-ring chain. It does rob a little bit of power from you, but it lasts a lot longer. And you don't have to be on it with the servicing as much as you do a non-O-ring chain, which I've added a link to it. And the reason why I've added 2 links to the chain is I want to get a little bit longer wheelbase. I do a lot of hill climbing and a lot of just, you're getting a really vertical positions when you're riding on hard enduro sometimes. So you can see the adjustment bolts all the way back out. So before, you can see the clean marks there. So that bolt was all the way in there. So I've gained, well, I've gained since way back in there. So almost 3/4 of an inch more wheelbase, which isn't a lot. I mean, it's not making a night and day difference here, but it's just a little bit more. Now sprocket here, Rinthal, I do the aluminum inside with the steel ring on the outside, the composite here. I like that. I used to run all aluminum sprockets, and they wear out super fast. So having this steel ring with the teeth, it just makes the sprocket last a lot longer. Plus, you're still saving a lot of weight by having the aluminum. And that's 52 teeth here. And then on the front sprocket, I run 12. So I do 12 on the front, 52 in the rear. And that makes this bike, you know, slower, but it just makes it tractor a lot better than you would on a, I think factory comes with 47 teeth in the back. You know, you'd be hitting easily 90 miles an hour on this. I think I'm doing about 80, but I mean, it's still plenty fast and fast enough for all, you know, for the slow riding I do. I'm not worried about top speeds here. The other thing I've done, which is a drawback on this bike and maybe on several other bikes, but your chain guides used to have metal ones. They bend. When they bend, you're stuck. So I've switched over to these plastic. This one by Cherby here, just a plastic guard. So if this hits really hard, this thing will just break, snap, and then you can easily take it off. Well, not easily, but you can take it off without having to take your chain off. You just, the bottom pulls off and this pulls out, and you can get this out of the way and keep on riding. Now, one of the drawbacks I'll show here, on the chain guide on the other side, there's a weld there. That bead on that weld from the factory is pretty weak. Now, I don't know what the other bikes look like and how their welds are, but Yamaha, this was a weak link. That cracked me. I hit that chain guide really hard and that cracked, and I had to take the whole, you know, luckily it cracked all the way off, and I was able to take the whole thing off and ride it back home. But they could have easily beefed up that weld, made it a lot stronger, like I've done myself, and it would last. So just keep checking that. That's something to keep an eye on as you ride. You never know how long that bead on the weld is going to last. Now my tire setup, front I have a tubeless system, and I probably will go to a mousse. I've switched to mousse in the rear, and I like it. So I think the mousse bibs have won me over. Now tire size, this one is a 90-90-21. It's the VX40 from IRC, and it's been a good tire. It has a little bit softer knobs, so these knobs have a little bit more give, and for the rocks, it's nice. It's just gonna grab a little bit more. Now the tubeless system's nice because you can adjust air pressure, but on the front, you really don't need a low air pressure. You just need it, you're running, you know, usually around 12, 13 PSI in the front. And then for my hare and hounds, the high speed stuff, I'll bump it up to 15, 16 PSI just because you're going really fast and you're hitting rocks really hard and you don't want to get any pinch flats. Which the tubeless is supposed to eliminate pinch flats. But when you're going fast and you hit some rock right there, it'll still get it. Plus anything poking up. Now in the rear here, I'm running a mousse, and this is a mousse I drilled out. You saw that I had a little short video on that. And this tire here is the Michelin Extreme Enduro. And it is the most grippy tire that I've ever had on. Now it is expensive, so I would only use this for a race tire. The JX8 from IRC, I really like that. I would run that as a more almost everyday ride tire, and then also their VE33S. I really like that. It's the VE33S. It's got the big knobs for a lot of hill climbing, which out in the desert here, when we do desert racing, Jawbone area, those big hills, you know, the big knobs help quite a bit. But it's not a tire review, it's a bike review. That's just what I have. I had this set up for my hard enduro. All right, coming on to the end. Finally, this review is taking longer than I thought. Your rear brake. Now the rear brake, you get the aftermarket brake lever, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're always breaking. They're always getting snapped off. The tip is, these suckers are expensive. The tip is expensive. It's like $39 a tip every time. And so what I've done here is I've just taken a little piece of aluminum angle iron there, and I've just cut it. And I've re-drilled the holes right there, and then I threaded them through the lever. And now that's all it is. So I went from $39 a tip to about, this is like 10 cents now. So if this breaks, bends, I have extras now. I just, 2 bolts, take it out and put a new piece of angle iron on there. And so my foot does not slip and slide. This I've had no problem. It works just as good as having a tip on there with all the little knobbies on there. So I like this because you go through so many of these, especially in hard enduro. You go through so many, it gets expensive. This has just saved me a lot of grief and money. And it's so easy to do. The other thing, I put on this cover here. The factory covers, they're not as thick, and right here where your brake hits, a lot of times you'll dent it, make a crack, and then you're starting to leak oil out. So that's where you buy an aftermarket cover like this here, and they don't last forever, but they're gonna last longer than the factory. I think that's about it with Trixie here. She's been a fantastic bike. Oh, look at this. That was a patch I did right there. I was going over a log. When I first started log hopping, I went over this tree log, the bike tipped over, and a broken off branch that was on the log poked my gas tank right there. And I was just leaking out gas all over the side. And that's the only time, Trixie, I had to get a tow from another guy, and that's where I got my tow strap right there. So I got another tow. I got a tow back to the rig, and then I took some plastic weld and filled that hole right there. You can see though, that tank does take a beating. So I wish they would just protect it. I know a lot of two-stroke guys, that tank just hangs all down the side of your engine there. To me, it's a lot of exposure. I'd want a little bit more protection on a gas tank. But you know, they're pretty durable. They do last a long time. Now, the other thing I've done, last thing, I have had my suspension gone through, DRS in Fresno. They've set up with the Race Tech gold valves and tune it to my body weights and the style of riding. They plug it all into their computer system there. And I do recommend that if you're not the ideal 160, 170 pound rider that these bikes are really made for. I'm at 220, 225. You know, it's good to have your suspension gone through and set up for your body weight. So he did the front and the rear and the spring, and the bike has really felt a lot better. I do enjoy riding the bike more than I did before I got the suspension done. So that's it. That's all the things I've modified for this bike here. I know every manufacturer, they're different. Reason why I picked a wr450 is just the WR model for California is a green sticker bike. That California is weird on our emissions for off-roading. There used to be a red and green sticker all the way up to 2021. A green sticker allowed you to ride year-round. The red sticker was just to ride basically in the winter months, and that's why I picked the WR. And I know a lot of you guys have picked a green sticker bike so they can legally ride year-round. But now, 2022, California is not permitting any off-road bikes at all. And so people are just riding illegally, and that's what everyone's going to have to do before they force us all to get electric bikes, is everyone's just going to be riding illegally or plating their bikes out of state, plating them someplace else or something like that, which is just a fiasco. I can't stand that. But she's been a very good bike. Trixie is a tank. She's dry. I just looked it up. It's 249 pounds dry. Compare that to a lot of the, 228 pounds, 230 pounds for the 300s. And some of the other bikes are just, lighter. But, your skills as a rider, you get used to it. So anyways, that's it. Love to get out to ride. I just had a little baby girl and I haven't ridden in a while, so I don't know when the next video is going to come out. But until then, get out and ride and get some. Ew!